Welcome to the D&D Fitness Radio Podcast, brought to you by your hosts, Don Saladino from New York City and Derek Hansen from Vancouver, Canada. In episode 18, we speak with Mark Bell, the Meathead Millionaire.
Yeah. Oh my God. Wow. Well, it's gotta be 3:00 somewhere, Derek, right?
What's up, kids?
Welcome to the show.
What's up, guys? You can hear me loud and clear?
Perfectly.
Beautifully. Look at you, cleanly shaven, looking like a stud, svelte.
Mm-hmm. Looking good. That's what it's all about, right?
Mark, it's truly a pleasure to have you on, man, and thank you. And I've heard so many great things about you from different people, Ben Bruno, Jen Widerstrom, specific people I know that you're tight with. So it's
Ben Bruno's the man.
Yeah, he's the best, and been following you through the years with a lot of your powerlifting career. I know your brother did. Your brother do the Bigger, Faster, Stronger?
That's right. Yeah, he was director. Yep.
Yeah, I remember that, and it's been fun to watch you go through your physique transformation. Also, you look pretty awesome, dude.
Yeah, I was a little chubby there for a little while, wasn't I?
How you feeling now? You feel great?
I feel really good. You know, it's taken some time. You know, I think at first people kept asking me as I was dropping weight, as I lost like 40, 50, 60, and so on. I ended up losing 100 pounds total. They kept asking me if I was feeling better, but I never noticed I was feeling bad when I was heavier. My conditioning wasn't great. And, you know, going upstairs and doing certain things like, you know, you'd huff and puff a little bit here and there. But when it came to training, I was able to kick ass. And I wasn't really like in a lot of pain, or I didn't have a lot of problems. But as I lost weight and as I kept the weight off, now I'm really starting to feel a lot different, just a lot more energy. And just, I have a couple of small aches and pains, but I feel pretty damn good. Let's put it that way.
Well, that's awesome. Well, introducing you to my podcast partner, Derek Hansen. Derek's someone that I met actually not too long ago. We've just become pretty close, and Derek's one of the guys that my team and I really look on to for not only a lot of training advice, but more in the field of sprinting and running, because that's his specialty. You know, worked under a guy by the name of Charlie Francis, and
I'm well aware of Charlie Francis, of course.
Yeah, so Derek's a pool of knowledge, so he's excited to have you on also.
Charlie Francis, you know, you just take steroids and you run really fast, right?
Yeah, especially if they're suppositories. Mark Uyama is a good friend of mine too. We're both from the Vancouver area, and I talk to Mark every week. So
yeah, Minnesota Vikings head strength coach.
Yeah. So he's an
overall bat. I love Mark. He's nuts.
Yeah. Good guy.
He said that he wouldn't be good podcast material because anything that would be really awesome to talk about, he's like, I can't say.
That's awesome.
All the dirt that goes on in the NFL, he's like, I can't talk about that.
Yeah, I know. It's all the good stuff you got to keep.
Hey, congrats on the muscle and fitness cover too, man. He looked awesome.
Thank you very much, man.
That's huge.
Thank you very much. Yeah, no, it was a big thrill, and I owe a lot of it to God rest his soul, Sean Perrine, who we all lost back in December, and it was a good dedication to him, and it's been opening some good doors. So thank you, appreciate it.
That's fucking awesome.
Thank you, man. So I think today what we want to do is I want to talk about a couple of things. One, your gym's pretty incredible, right? It's called Super Gym.
Super Training Gym, yeah. It's
Super Training.
A 8,000 square foot facility that's free.
Awesome. Well, wow, I want to hear about this. Sling Shot, which is an invention of yours. I mean, I know you have, I don't know how many patents on different products, so you're very entrepreneurial. I'd love to jump into your powerlifting career and your transformation. I mean, you've done a lot in this industry. I mean, typically, and I'm not peeing on anyone else in the industry, but to turn around and go from a powerlifting background and I think and evolve into a business person, who really understands social media and really understands how to relate with people and to monetize their business. For me, I think a lot of coaches want to hear it, but I think it's really inspiring for just the average Joe as well. So
something I really admire in a lot of other people too is to see change. You know, have that personal training client that goes from having these bad habits, these poor eating habits, or even they just get into a routine. They get on a schedule of training and they're there Monday, Wednesday, Friday, week in and week out. I really admire that. I love seeing that in other people, because that change is really a difficult thing to do. And that's stuff I'm trying to work on all the time. There's just things I'm trying to undertake, and different things I'm trying to do just to try to improve myself, try to be better, try to learn, try to get better perspective. I never thought in a million years that I would like running. And I just started running about a week and a half ago. And I just try to run every other day. I'm not very good at it, but I just go out there and I just do it.
But you said now you're starting to enjoy it. And I think that to be good at something, I feel like it's tough to be good at something without actually enjoying it. And
Right.
the thing I've always spoken to people about in the industry is that we have so many different tools in the toolbox. There's so many different things we can offer a client, whether it's a kettlebell or a barbell. If someone's completely against doing something, then don't force it. Just find a different tool and use that tool to help them really enjoy it, because you could be setting them up for disaster or success just from one session, which I think is a big responsibility for coaches like ourselves.
That's very true. You might have somebody who likes single leg movements, and then you try it with a client, and they're like, my knee hurts. And then you see the trainer will do another single leg movement. My knee hurts. It's like, hey, buddy, get over whatever it is that you think is the right way to train, and just train them the way that they need you to train them.
I totally agree. So so it started for you in powerlifting, and then it evolved into the gym?
Yeah. So, I've always known that somewhere along the line, I always known that strength was going to be the answer. I've always known that it was going to be in my future. It was part of me at a very young age. I started lifting at about 11, 12 years old, and, found out very quickly that I was a lot stronger than my friends and stuff like that. And obviously things like that make you feel good when you start out good at something, or you start out even just a little bit ahead. I was kind of a big kid. I started out a little bit ahead, made me feel good, and got me momentum into having that be a reoccurring thing that I wanted to pursue and do. I was huge into pro wrestling. I loved watching Hulk Hogan and Macho Man and Ultimate Warrior, Andre the Giant, all that stuff, and was always mesmerized by the way that some of these guys looked. And I always was attracted to that. I'm like, how do I think that's cool. I want to figure out a way to do some of that myself. And, playing football and other sports like that, you got to train, if you're going to do something, it helps, to try to do your best at it, because if you win, then it's more fun. And so when it came to football and stuff like that, I trained for football and built up some strength for that. But in terms of actual powerlifting, my first powerlifting meet, I was about 13 years old. And I always knew it was going to be something I would keep going back to, because again, I was pretty good at it at a very young age, and I was a pretty big kid. It just seemed to really fit with my body type and stuff like that too. And there was also another element to powerlifting, and I still love this to this very day. It's a little harder to get to at this point in my career, because I don't lift as heavy as I used to. But I love the pressure. There's really something about the pressure. I've heard people talk about this, people that like to dive, people that like to do deep sea dives and things like that, where you get this fucking pressure in your head. And so there's definitely something to that for me. And what I never knew before is, because I never went on a run in my damn life, pretty much, I didn't really realize that you don't get the same pressure when you run, but your head does kind of get knocked around a little bit. And for me, whatever the hell that is, whatever the hell some of that is, I like that. I don't know how to even describe some of that, but it's causing some sort of rush or some sort of endorphin release that keeps me excited and kind of keeps me coming back. I've always loved the challenge too, of the fact that you can't really master lifting weights. There's always more weight to be lifted. There's always you can always do another rep. How many times have you looked at your own lift before, especially like a deadlift, and it almost flat out looks like you gave up on it when you go back and watch the video when you missed it, right? And you look at it and you're like, oh, I'm pussy. I totally gave up on that. But that's not what happened. Your body just kind of gave out, and at some point your brain said, hey, this is not a good idea. You're going to blow your back out or something like that. I always like that
right.
there's so much more challenge to it. You can always do more reps, always do more sets, and always do more weight.
What were your bench, squat, and deadlift? I know a lot of our listeners are going to want to hear just to explain how strong you are, but
Yeah.
what were your PRs on those three lifts?
So my best squat was 1,080 squat. My best bench press was an 854-pound bench press. And I also did a 782 deadlift.
That's ridiculous. So what's that total right there? I can't add that up that fast. That's 20.
Yeah. I didn't do that all in the same day. Those are my best lifts. Some of those are done in separate meets, but my best total was like 2634.
That's unbelievable.
It doesn't feel very good to lift all that weight in the same day. It makes you, in the movie Rocky, he talks about boxing, and he talks about how it makes him feel the next day after a fight. And powerlifting contests are really, really brutal. They're tough. And I kind of feel like Rocky when he said his face hurt, his hands hurt, his hair hurts, like your head, just everything just hurts. And you blow out blood vessels. Like I blew out blood vessels in my eyes, but also all through your face, where it almost looks like you have a rash. Your face is like speckled. It's some really crazy, wild stuff.
That's insane.
In the prime of my powerlifting career, geared powerlifting, like where you're wearing like a squat suit and where you're wearing like a bench shirt and those kinds of things, those were popular. And so that's the way I played the game. There wasn't really a lot of what they call raw powerlifting, like where people are just using a belt, sometimes just knee wraps or just knee sleeves. That wasn't in favor at the time, so I didn't really compete that way. And these squat suits and some of the things that you bench shirts and stuff, they were really supportive, and they would give you support in the lift. I think initially they were designed so you didn't get hurt. It's kind of like a lifting belt almost, where it's like a lifting belt might give you 30 pounds, might give you 50 pounds, but it's also just kind of a safety piece. Make sure you don't hurt yourself. And that's initially how these squat suits and bench shirts and stuff started out, but then they evolved. And these companies were figuring out, okay, we can do this to this shirt, we can do this to this squat suit, and then the guy can lift that much more weight. And so you started having Velcro straps on the squat suit, and you can freaking crank those things down and cinch your belt up and have your knee wraps on really tight. And now you're getting into a whole nother realm of capability. But having that weight on your back, the amount of pressure and the amount of balance and just the focus that you need for it, for those few seconds that you're lifting the weight is it's really makes. Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. The amount of pressure that you have in the bottom of the squat is amazing. But when you do things correctly and you have your training is on, and everything that you do surrounding the competition is on point, it's really an amazing feeling when you get to the bottom of your squat, which is usually where you feel the worst, or the bottom of your bench press. You're like, oh my God, I got tons of power. I got enough power to make this lift and then some. There's really, I have never found anything else that has felt like that before. It just feels like, man, I'm going to slaughter this, and then you do it. It's pretty cool.
It's on such an extreme level, Derek. It's like, I think powerlifting is that end of the spectrum when it comes down to strength training. I mean, this is typically what should scare the shit out of most people. I mean, I happen to love it. I'm not a powerlifter, but when I go and, watch meets, no serious meets, more recreational stuff, like the Arnold or the Olympia, but you're going in there's some strong guys. I've seen guys like Eddie Hall lift, or I saw some 22-year-old kid, he pulled like 840 or 850 off the floor. I was pretty impressed with. Like, his kid was probably $198. So stuff like that I like watching. But with my own training, what I try and apply to my clients, take a Blake Lively, who looks nothing like a powerlifter. Her goal has always been to get her stronger and to develop a more resilient body. I was using that word with Emily Blunt, who's an actress, a resilient body. And I think a lot of women are incredibly panicked about becoming strong because they feel like they're going to get bigger. And look at Blake, look at Emily, our priority is strength, and they have fantastic bodies. So in your gym, your methodology is definitely more of a strength approach. I'm sure you mix a lot of metabolic or energy systems, call it what you want, but can you talk about that a little bit, how you handle women?
Yeah, I shouldn't be handling too many women because I'm married. So
sorry, it came out wrong.
I only be handling one woman, right? What I like to kind of look at too is the fact that these set of tools that we have open to us, bodybuilding, powerlifting, CrossFit, however you want to label the style of training that you're doing with somebody, is there opportunities for people to do things that they didn't think they could do before. And that's a pretty simple concept to get around, when it comes to something like a curls are great. I mean, they build up your arms. It's a great movement. It's been around forever. People use them, right, all the time, but it's not going to probably be anything that's going to really empower you, because you're probably not going to really see a real change or a real difference to happen. And so flipping a tire or taking a sledgehammer and nailing a tire with a sledgehammer, or doing those ball slams, or just throwing a ball as hard as you possibly can, as explosively as you can into the wall, punching a punching bag, hitting a speed bag, jumping rope. Like, then you have some of these things that are like aggressive, and then you have some of these things that take a skill set where maybe you have an athlete in the gym and they're jumping over a bench back and forth, and they're not using their hands or anything. They're simply hopping over it, right? Well, somebody else might look at that and go, oh my God, like, I'll never be able to do that. Well, that could be true, but maybe they could do a different version of that. Maybe they kind of hold on to the bench and they're able to get their feet over it. Now they just had something that they thought they can't even do anything that remotely looks close to that, and they just performed something that looks already pretty close to it. And so I think that when we can take the barriers of entry into fitness and sort of break some of those down and invite more people into it, we end up with something really exciting, because now we can have more people that are into fitness. We have more people that are living healthier lives. We can have better access and more access to healthier foods, because it's the foods that are really just the food. We're losing. We're fucking losing. We're getting crushed, man. More and more people are becoming.
Derek, I want you to jump in on that. I mean, there's such a misconception on, I think, what should be done and what shouldn't be done. And yes, it has to be entertaining, and you have to enjoy it. But even Derek, even from running standpoint, right? It's like, how many marathon runners have you looked at and said to yourself, well, I want that body? It's right. Typically the sprinter. It's typically those short bursts. And I mean, science is proving that those shorter, fast, powerful bursts of training, Derek, right? Can you add in on that?
Yeah, like I had an issue with a friend of mine where he's had some issues, mental health issues, and he was an Olympic athlete, did like, sprinting, jumping events. And then when I think he might have had some issues back then, but they were buffered by the fact that he was stressing himself in this way. Like, I think everything we're talking about here is managing stress, but also imposing stress in a way that you're not used to, right? And so when he got out of it, when he retired, he had issues. Like, I think that were kind of covered up by the fact that he had outlets, physical outlets. And I think that's what maybe a lot of people are missing. Like, they habituate to whatever day-to-day things. But if you get somebody to pull a heavy weight or put a weight on their back, and you feel that pressure, and I feel the same thing when I run. Like, I'm not a long distance runner, but we'll go out and we'll go like 20, 30 minutes hard, me and my wife, and my heart rate's up to like 175, 180, and I feel like I'm going to die. But after that, I feel fantastic, right? It's out of my comfort zone. So I think that's, it's that whole comfort zone stress adaptation thing that we have to keep pushing.
It's about pushing yourself, through something. And when you get through that, you end up getting through to the other side, and just things end up making more sense to you, because these things are so black and white. Like, did you lift a weight or not? Did you run to the top of the mountain or did you not? And you can feel yourself improve. And looking better is one thing. Like, that can be a little harder, especially for people that really struggle with their food, because you can exercise a lot and sometimes not make up for that enough. And so sometimes that can be hard. But when it comes to actually powerlifting, in my opinion, there's nothing more empowering than doing some of the things that are from powerlifting and that are from strongman. I know things have changed a lot, but a lot of times, I have a daughter and I have a son. Well, they're raised a little differently, right? Like the daughter, like I want her to be more careful. I'm a little more worried about her. The boy, I'm not worried about if he gets his pants dirty or if he, it's just the way things are. And they probably really won't totally change from that perspective. But when a lot of times women want to do this quote unquote manly shit. They want to take a sledgehammer. They want to fucking slam something. Tell one of these women and say, hey, think about when your husband's not listening and you want to get through to him. Watch them pick up the pace right away on what it is they're doing. But they want to do some of these things because these things make them feel great. Flipping a tire, doing a farmer's carry, lifting some unconventional objects can make you feel fucking awesome about yourself.
No, I totally agree. So I'm glad to hear that. And I knew we were going to have a lot of the same training methodology. I mean, I've obviously done my research on you through Ben, and I've been following you for years, which has been a lot of fun. But can you talk to me about, so you were, the first time I got in contact with you was when you were nice enough to send me a box of Sling Shots, which ironically, I was using them last week. We were going awesome. For a max lift, and then we ended up hitting the max lift, and then right after it's like, those days where you just feel good. And you just want to keep going. You just want to have more weight on the bar. And I'm figuring, what do you get about? I mean, you probably get up to about a 10 to 15% jump on a max.
Absolutely. Yeah. About 10%. Yeah.
Okay. And so it's been fantastic, but can you explain to our viewers, our listeners, what the Sling Shot is, how that came to fruition?
Yeah. The Sling Shot is a supportive upper body device. It's for bench press. It's for push-ups. It's for dips. And I feel that it's one of our most misunderstood products that we have. We make all kinds of different things, and you've seen there's tons of knockoffs of some of the products that we've made. One of the ones I'm the most proud of is the hip circle. Very normal piece. We just make it's a stretchy circle, but so many people have kind of hopped in on that because they've seen the market grow for that. I mean, I don't want to completely take 100% credit for all the giant asses that you see on Instagram, but I am partially responsible because of the product, the hip circle. The Sling Shot is a little less self-explanatory. Hip circle, you just put it up over your knees, walk forward with it, backwards with it, do squats with it, and it helps build up your hips, helps you warm up for your workouts. Can help in any sport that needs an explosive first step because your hips are a big part of it. Trying to get glute activation can sometimes be tricky, and it's a real easy, convenient way to warm your body up for a workout. But Sling Shot is a little bit misunderstood because it gives you a lot of assistance in a lift. And so as soon as we start to give somebody assistance, then people go, whoa, wait a second. Like, isn't that taken away from my exercise and that taken away from my lift? We recently created a slightly different version of the Sling Shot, which is called the Sling Shot Push-Up. A Sling Shot by itself, the original Sling Shots, they all help you with push-ups, just the way they're designed. But I made one more specifically to attack the fact that there's a lot of people that really struggle with push-ups. And a lot of people, a lot of times I'll see it'll be a newer athlete, or it might be a female, or somebody who maybe is a little too heavy to move around their own body weight. Mm-hmm. And when we put the Sling Shot push-up on them, what it does is it allows them to not only do a push-up, but because they're allowed to do a push-up and because they're in a push-up position for a longer period of time, now their entire body is engaged in the movement for a longer period of time. We have what we call time under tension. And a lot of times it's not the person's upper body that's not strong enough. I mean, you could take some of these clients and have them throw a couple punches at your hands, and you can immediately feel like these people they have some power in their body. They're not able to express their power because their power is getting shut down because their core is not strong enough to stay attached to the movement through a full range of motion. And that's when we see the lower back will bow in and the hips will start to move around all funky. And so with a product like the Sling Shot, it can really help solve a lot of these problems. The Sling Shot will stretch across your chest as you're lowering yourself down towards the ground. In the case of a push-up, and it will slingshot you back up. Now, it's not going to do all the work for you. Once you try to do 10 reps, 20 reps, depending on your skill level, get into that 50 rep range for somebody like yourself, you're like, holy shit. So the Sling Shot allows you to do more work. It allows you you're able to do more reps more sets, more weight. And we know that in strength training, one of the greatest byproducts of getting stronger, one of the greatest things in getting stronger has been, people have discovered that there's a bunch of different ways to get stronger, but one of the biggest ways to get stronger is to simply add more work. So not always add more weight. You can add more weight. That's the intensity. That's the weight on the bar. But if you just simply add more work, that's why 5 sets of 5 has been around for so long. If you do 5 sets of 5 with 200 pounds, the next week you use 205 and so on, you can make progress progressively. And it's because of the amount of overall work. They would have a much less impact if you only did 1 set of 5. And so the Sling Shot not only will allow you to do multiple sets, multiple reps, it will also allow you to do it at a greater intensity with more weight. You're also getting protection from the product. The product helps to keep better form, and it helps to ingrain that into your system over and over again. Think about somebody executing a bench press with perfect technique, somebody executing a push-up. Now, sometimes these exercises people take for granted. They don't think there's a lot of technique involved. We know there's tons of technique when it comes to running, right? We know there's tons of technique to jiu-jitsu. Have me lock horns with a black belt in jiu-jitsu, and I'm going to be toast. My strength is irrelevant. Anything I have is it's out the window because there's a technique involved to it. There's a technique involved in every lift that you do, and a Sling Shot will help set you up in proper position. It'll help keep the elbows in closer to your body. So you're not getting all that shoulder rotation. You're not putting as much stress on your shoulder. Your elbow's not traveling past the midline of your body as much, and you're not in that stress position. The bottom of a bench press is the least advantageous position you can be in. It's the worst position you can be in, and it can be very stressful on athletes that are tall, athletes that are thin, basketball players, football players, anyone with long arms. I mean, there's a lot of people that kind of fall into this category. Powerlifters a lot of times are really thick, and so they don't always run into the same shoulder injuries because their body's so thick, their shoulder rotates a lot less when they go to do a bench press. Their elbow doesn't travel past the midline of their body as far. So the Sling Shot kind of helps hold all that together, and where you're the most exposed, it's giving you the most assistance, and it's gradual assistance. As you come towards the top, you still have to lock all that weight out. So again, it's making those weights lighter at the bottom, which is the most problematic. That's where most of us get hurt, and it's unloading as you go to push back up.
I've also noticed from a confidence standpoint, and I'm sure you've seen this, someone just gets a number stuck in their head that they can't surpass.
Yeah.
And suddenly it's like, it's like the guy who wants to bench 225 or 315. It's like this gets stuck in his head. Yeah. He absolutely explodes with 305 off his chest, but then you add 10 more pounds and it's like you added 100. So I also found from a confidence standpoint, when you wrap them up and you get them to actually feel the weight and like, listen, you just did that for a double. You can do it with a single without, I almost felt like that helped out. But I had a question for you on the placement of it. There's slits that are in the Sling Shot. That's where your elbow goes, correct? Or can it just rest on your
the slit was really initially made just so you can kind of grab. So you can put your fingers in there and grab it and pull it up. And so for most people like yourself, you look like you're how tall are you?
6'1".
Yeah, you look like you're fairly tall. And so for a lot of athletes that are taller and thinner, they definitely want to try to put the product up more on their biceps.
That's a bit, okay.
Yeah, some of the thicker athletes, some of the shorter athletes, they could usually put it like a little bit lower. But for the most part, you want to try to get it up, slightly over the elbow. Yeah, the slits were really designed to help you kind of yank the thing into place.
It's originally what I thought. Someone told me differently, and I wasn't exactly sure if that was true or not. So I wanted to ask.
Yeah, one of the things really to make it really simple to understand how it works is it works a little bit like your muscles in your body. When you're lowering a weight in a bench press, your muscles are they're lengthening. Well, so is the Sling Shot. And as you go to push the weight back up off your chest, your muscles are going to contract, they're going to shorten, and so does the slingshot. So in a sense, it's almost acts as double muscle. It allows you to handle more weight. And it's like you said, it's like a 10, the results will vary a little bit, but about a 10% increase in the weight that you can do. And somebody might look at it and say, oh man, I can do push-ups all day long. Well, it's not really about that. It's still, it's going to assist you. It's going to allow you to do a lot more than you normally be able to do. So we use it a lot here at Super Training, obviously, but at the end of our workouts, we want to bang out a bunch of push-ups. We'll be like, all right, 100 push-ups, here we go. And whatever way you get to that 100 push-ups, whenever you get to it, then your workout's done.
Very cool. So Super Training Gym. So how long ago did you start that?
Super Training Gym has been around since 2006. I'm originally from New York, bounced around the country a little bit. And when I moved to this area, I'm in Northern California. My gym is in West Sacramento. I live in Davis, California. When I moved to this area, I kind of recognized that it was going to be really hard for me to be good at powerlifting by myself. I was like, man, I can get stronger. I can go to some of these gyms and I could probably deadlift 500 pounds, 600 pounds. And I could probably figure a lot of these things out on my own. But, if I want to deadlift 700 pounds, and if I want to bench these big weights and squat these big weights, then I'm going to need like a team. I need like a squad. We need like a workout group that's really serious. I need other people to push me when I don't feel like pushing myself. And we need to create some competition. And so when I moved to the area, I was already somewhat known in the fitness industry because I wrote on a website called EliteFTS.com. That's Dave Tate's website. He's had that for many, many years. And I wrote under the name Jackass. And,
Derek, what a great idea.
I know. Initially, he wasn't supposed to tell anybody that was me on there, and I just trolled the fuck out of everybody. I was like the original internet troll. All these guys writing about, what they squatted and what they benched and all these different things, and I'd always, make these rude comments, and I would talk about how I'm the greatest thing that ever happened in fitness, and my workouts with burpees and all these ab exercises I was doing. Like I would talk about using the ab wheel and all this shit.
Oh my God.
And now it's actually a thing. I see that on your Instagram all the time now.
Yeah.
I was just trolling and messing with people a lot. And then people kept asking Dave over and over again, hey, who is this guy? Who is this guy? And he finally told him. I was like, dude, you weren't supposed to tell anybody. Now everybody fucking hates me.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was already building up a little bit of a reputation, for better or worse. And, at that point, when I moved to California, I just made a post and said, hey, I'm moving to NorCal. And I don't know if there's anybody that does powerlifting in the area. Make a long story short, the guy had some weights in his garage. In this garage gym, I ended up meeting some other lifters, and we ended up kind of meeting on a weekly basis. And I was like, I need to kind of have my own spot where we take this to another level. And ultimately, that's what I did. And it took a few years. I didn't have any money or any way of figuring it out, but I just kept dreaming about it. I kept thinking about it over and over again. I'm like, I need to make this happen. It was just almost like completely irrational thought. And I made a post today, and I said, dream harder than you work. And I've always kind of been that way, where I'm a little bit in my own world in some way. That's why I was giving you shit. You said like, oh man, I'm swamped or something. And so I just made up.
What's funny about that too? It was almost comical, because when you said that, I'll never forget. It was like a couple months ago, and I was on the phone with some editor, and they actually kind of annoyed me a little bit, because I'm like, I'm so sorry I couldn't get back to you. Oh my God, I'm just so crazy. And I'm like, well, then you obviously can't handle it.
Right.
That was my exact response.
Yeah, so that's what I threw at you. Yeah.
And you threw it at me. And I was like, this son of a bitch just used my line. But no, it was just one of those things where I think I used it, like I said, it's just like, I'm in that mind frame of like, time is money. Like, let's be efficient. Let's just, A lot of times people will jump on and they want to spend 5 hours with you chatting or whatever. And I'm just kind of like, Derek, if I ever get obnoxious, punch me through the screen. But it's one of those things where you're just trying to, make things as efficient as possible. That's kind of my work.
You try to keep moving. So anyway, I mean, I kept dreaming of this thing, to have this gym, and I started out very, very modest. I started out in like a 700 square foot spot. And the thing I like to share with a lot of people is you don't really need people. They'll say like, this is going to happen when I get to this, or I'm going to be able to do this once I move to this area, or once I get this job, I'm going to be able to do. Well, you could be working towards stuff while simultaneously there's a bunch of other shit going on, right? And so I just started it. It wasn't this great thing. It wasn't like, hey, here's super training, and I had $200,000 in the bank to back me up and stuff like that. There's nothing like that. I didn't have any money at all. I just thought, well, if I can I kind of work out with about 6 people. If I get those 6 people to say, hey, I'll throw in $100 a month to help keep the lights on and have a gym, then maybe I can get another 6 people, and we'll be able to afford the rent for the first few months. And maybe, who knows, maybe we'll figure out a way to be on our way. And as long as it's not losing a bunch of money, then we can keep it going. And so I started that in about 2006. And as things progressed, as things moved forward, I just started to recognize, like, man, I'm getting so much back out of having this gym. And at the time I did a little bit of personal training, and I was still trying to think of different ways to monetize things. And I was thinking about it every day, and I was trying to come up with something, but I just, nothing was really hitting, but it did occur to me. I was like, man, the second I get the opportunity to make the gym free, I'm going to make the gym free, because the lessons I've learned in this gym, the challenges that I've overcome and the challenges other people overcome in this gym every single day, outweighs any amount of money that I'll ever receive. And it outweighs, anything that anyone can just give me in a check or in the form of a $100 bill or whatever it is. And so that was the goal. And once I kind of started to make a decision towards that, I just started to kind of think about it every day. And it's just started to kind of be one of these things that, something's a good idea if you think about it all the time. It's the same thing with falling in love, right? You fall in love with somebody and you're like, man, it's just over and over again, that person keeps popping up in your head. You're like, what the fuck's going on, man? Why is that happening to me? And same thing with a good idea. Like, it's a good idea when it keeps pounding you over the head. And so I wanted to make the gym free, and kind of simultaneously some of these ideas were coming to me for inventions and for different products. I created a couple things that helped me manage pain in my training. Compression cuffs, just a cuff that goes around your elbow or your knee. I've had a lot of pain in my elbows and knees over the years. And then I just, before the Sling Shot came out, I was so heavily leaning towards having the gym be free that I just decided one day, I said, you know what, fuck it. I'm going to make the gym free, and we're going to figure these things out. Now, I did have Power Magazine going at the time. I was running powerlifting meets, and I was doing some personal training. So there was enough to make ends meet and enough to kind of make everything work. And on top of that, my wife was the breadwinner. My wife was the one bringing home the bacon at the time. And so I just decided to make the gym free. And I'll never forget the day that I made the gym free, and the day that I showed up and talked to everybody about making the gym free. One of the guys was like, man, he's like, that's really cool that you made the gym free. He's like, Mark, you shouldn't be doing that though, man. I'm like, why are you making the gym free? Like, how are you going to survive? And I said, I made the gym free to be rich. And he kind of paused for a second, and then he just like kind of shook his head, and he was like, you know what, man, I think I know what you mean. And he's like, I think that you're going to get a lot back by giving a lot. And so that's always been kind of the goal. You get, give a lot and get a lot more back.
Yeah. Has there been any backlash from other gyms, like going, hey, you can't offer this for free because we,
so that was, to be totally honest, sometimes that's the motivation, like to a fault, I can be motivated by, by negative stuff, by seeing just seeing people rip people off for training. Now, personal training provides tremendous value if you care about the people that you are dealing with. And if you put your time in, it could change people's lives in a heartbeat. But yeah, I was kind of like, you know what? Fuck all these people. Fuck all these power lifters. Fuck all these people charging $50 an hour. I was like, I hated personal training. And the reason why I personally hated personal training was a friend of mine made me realize this. It's kind of funny how your friends that you don't always hold in such high regard say some pretty awesome things to you sometimes, where you're like, oh shit, the fucker's right. My friend told me, he's like, you don't like personal training because you don't like working for other people. And here I was thinking I was kind of living my own life. And here I was thinking that I was doing everything on my own and I was working for myself. He was like, no, whenever there's a exchange of money, then you're working for that person in a sense. And still today, even with what I do now, it's a little bit more distant, but still when someone purchases a Sling Shot, I got to work for that person because I got to make sure the customer service is there and all those other things. But it's a little more distant than the relationship with personal training of making sure you're there on time and just kind of, catering to the person's needs and some of those things. And so when I took that variable out, it seemed to free up my bandwidth. It seemed to free up my mind towards thinking of bigger things for myself. And so that's kind of around the time that the Sling Shot started to come to be. And that's around the time that I would say like my own personal development and my own personal journey into educating myself on how to be what I am today, the Meathead Millionaire. I would say that my education as a kid was not great. Like I didn't learn very well, and I was always behind, and it just got to a point where, remember I mentioned earlier, when you're good at something, it makes you feel good. Well, when you're bad at something, it makes you feel like shit. And so I always struggled in school. And so, I was like learning disabled or whatever. They didn't really know what to do with me at the time. I was really just slower than some of the other kids, but I wasn't so slow that I should have ended up in the classes I ended up in. So it just left a huge gap in time in my development and my education. And so I had to, at some point, figure out a way to self-educate myself. And everything I've done has been on my phone and from a coffee shop. My phone, my iPad. This is somebody else's computer. I don't even use a computer because I'm not good with them. But everything is kind of spawned from that. I watch a lot of YouTube videos. I really don't like to read. It takes me too long. But I try to listen to other messages. I watch what some other people are doing, and I just try to learn every single day. And once all that started to happen, then everything just started to just fucking light on fire.
Right. Does that educational experience you had, does that change how you teach others and how you mentor people too, like your methods?
It definitely makes a big difference because perspective is a real key factor in life, and I think that not enough of us will take the time to have perspective on somebody else. The way that I teach is like I like to really watch people. I like to see what they're going to do, and then I'm able to teach from there. So like if I was going to teach a deadlift or bench press to you guys, I'd have to kind of see you do it. And I might not even say anything for a while. I might watch you do a couple sets, couple reps, and we got to wait till there's a certain amount of weight on the bar, and then we'll kind of get more into teaching, because I think that when you're teaching, especially when it comes to movement, it's more of like coaching some small tweaks usually. Especially with nowadays, if people have YouTube and they can watch a lot of other people, and when they can kind of see how to bench press, how to deadlift, how to squat, they can learn a lot about it. And so they at least come in with something. They at least have something, and then I can make tweaks, but the tweaks, unfortunately, they're gonna be so different for each person. I mean, I've had people come in, I'll watch them deadlift, I'll be like, okay, I'll watch a couple times. I'm like, all right, well, let's have you pick your chin up on the deadlift and let's have you look almost towards the ceiling. Well, the next guy or next girl might be totally 100% different. I might be like, you need to look at the floor, because our bodies are so different, and so the muscularity, the height, the different limb lengths and everything, it gets to be absolutely crazy. So I usually like to see what somebody's going to do, and then I like to teach them from there. But having perspective on where people come from is a huge thing too. If you walk in and you got your chest up and you're ready to rock and you're excited, I'm like, okay, I got to kind of read this person a little bit. This guy probably played some sports. Looks like he's familiar with his body. He knows what he's doing. Well, that's going to look a lot different. Just like I gave him shit about, saying that his life was crazy at the time. You can almost read certain people certain ways at certain times, and I don't know him that well, so he could have easily blown up and been like, you're a dick. Our love affair is over. But it's being able to read people is a huge part of being able to coach them, because it's not, I don't really care about I don't really care that much about showing you a deadlift. I want to give you information that inspires, not changes your life, but just enhances your life. And so I'm going to have to know exactly what makes you tick and what doesn't. And I'm going to have to try to pick that up quick, especially if I'm just meeting you, 10 seconds earlier, you walking through the door. But that perspective of kind of where people come from has helped me a lot in my life, in the judgment of people, who might be addicted to drugs and alcohol, people that may cheat on their spouse, or it's like, man, you're not any better than these people. You're one small crack away. You're one small crack away from being in that fucking hole yourself. And so that kind of stuff has helped me a lot. It helps me a ton with coaching, and it helps me to be empathetic towards other people.
What's interesting is to watch you from a social media standpoint. I mean, I've put a lot of time. I'm not necessarily saying to doing social media because I'm still pretty new to it, but I think in the last year I've really studied with it. I've been really fortunate enough to get paired up with some incredible teams over at Instagram, Facebook, and people who have a vested interest in seeing me do well, who have educated me throughout at least the last year on how to go in and really do a good thing and try and influence people. But I think what you do is probably the hardest thing for most people to do, and it's to come off very naturally. Your social media, your message, it's always pretty much fun. It is. I mean, it's also educational. You're always giving them something, but you're also showing a side of your personality which isn't so robotic. You know what I'm saying? You're able to connect with people. And from a social media standpoint, I don't look at it as, well, we want to make as much money as possible. Yes, we want to make as much money as possible. And I believe the money is there and it will be there. But if you focus on those principles and you focus on just giving, and like you said, with giving the free membership, if you focus on just doing those things for the right reason, the right way, the money and all that satisfaction is going to come. Was that something you felt like that you just pretty much nailed out of the gate, and you got, and you're just like, this comes very natural to me, I'm just going to do this because it is inspiring?
It's a struggle, because just the world is moving very fast, and people are executing really well on social media. And you're like, man, that guy's got 1 million followers, and that guy's got 2 million followers. And then there's The Rock, right? You're like, what? You can't even make sense of anything that guy does, right? Or some of the people that you even train and work with, some of the celebrities you work with, they're phenomenal. They're crushing it. And people do want to see and view their life. Some of the things that have been difficult for me is has been what to share and when kind of thing. And at some point, I decided, you know what, I don't really care. I'm just going to share what I feel like sharing in that moment. Now, sometimes I still get stuck because it's hard to not think, well, what are people going to think about this? Well, maybe I shouldn't say that way. Maybe this can be taken the wrong way. Maybe they'll think I'm sexist or racist or this or that. And you're like, right? You say something positive for Donald Trump. Maybe you don't love Donald Trump, but maybe this one thing you liked or whatever. It can be just taken a certain way, and now you're forever this huge Donald Trump fan, and everybody thinks you're a psychopath, right?
Yeah.
So some of that gets to be weird, but I try to just not really care too much. I'm like, okay, this is the person that I'm with for this day. We're going to take a picture, and I'm going to fucking post it, and I'm just going to say something nice about that person and what we did because I had fun. I had a great time, and I feel like sharing it. So I try to keep it simple. It's my choice to try to bring people into my life as much as possible. They don't get to see everything, but I do try to share with them my children. I do try to share with them the love I have for my wife. I do try to share because I want the message to be understood and for people to have the perspective of where's this shit coming from. And I feel like my social media does well, but I feel like it moves along like a fucking slug. You know, I have like 350, maybe 1,000 followers on YouTube. But I started my YouTube channel in 2006 at the very initial, when YouTube launched, basically, is when I started my YouTube channel. And something I recognized even back then, and people kind of forget YouTube as a social media platform, but in my opinion, it's the strongest and the best for many different reasons. But I like the fact that YouTube has another dimension to it. I would say that, let's say Instagram's a little bit flat. Instagram is probably maybe two-dimensional, you know, some at times, but it's one-dimensional at best probably. And YouTube is at least a little bit more two-dimensional. Obviously, meeting somebody in person, then you get to see almost everything at that point. But I really like that YouTube has a longer format, and it's actually you're just talking. So if I just share pictures with you, well, I'm just going to share the best angles and the best moments of my life, and that'll just look a certain way. And I understand that that's what some people want to portray because they're trying to portray an image and a very certain thing in a certain manner to match up with whatever their branding is. When it comes to any of that shit, when it comes to branding, when it comes to, I just don't do anything that way. I'm unconventional in a lot of ways. I don't consider myself even an entrepreneur. I'm an inventor. I'm a creator. I create content, and I have a more creative side to myself than I do an intelligent side. I'm not afraid to embrace that. That's the way things work. That's the way things work for me, and it's what has led to a lot of great things for me. And so the main thing with social media, my recommendation to people is try to not worry so much about what people are going to think of what you post. I know that's a little cliche, but keep this in mind. This is a hard thing to understand, but you know, and this has been going around the internet. Somebody said this more recently. You know, we're not who we think we are, and we're not who other people think we are. We are the byproduct of what we think other people think we are. So we're this imaginary thing in our head. Mark Bell is this imaginary thing that I have in my head of your perception of me, which is fucking wild, right? But perception is reality in some way. And so understanding that and saying almost fuck all that for a second and try to make things a little bit more black and white. Try to think about mom and dad. Try to think about your brother, your sister, your best friend that's always been by your side. You are probably more accurately what they think you are. That probably makes a little bit more sense. And try to stay true to some of that, because I think a lot of us are having a hard time figuring out who the fuck we are.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. I mean, it's you know, it's also Derek. You and I spoke about this several times. It's also a little misleading. You know, when people are always putting up that perfect ab shot or that perfect shot of them in the bathing suit, and it could get really, I think, depressing for a lot of people out there. I mean, at least the feedback that I've gotten from people, this person always looks perfect. And I'm like, no, they don't. Don't worry. Like, I've seen them in the morning. I've seen, you know, it's they're just allowing you to see them in the light that they only want you to see them in. So, you know, I think social media has been an incredible thing. I think it's inspired a lot of people. I think it's helped a lot of people. But I think that a lot of individuals out there need to realize that a lot of people are allowing you to see what they want you to see, and it's not real life. And that's why anytime I come across someone with a very natural approach and they let you see them with the big zit on their face, or they turn around, they take their shirt off, and they're like, I went overboard on Chinese food and last night, and this is what I look like. It's almost like a refreshing thing to see. I'd love to see more people
I'll tell you something that made a big difference for me in my weight loss journey was I started kind of pulling my shirt off a little early. Like, you know, I knew I didn't look good. And I did that, it was about a year ago now. And I knew that I wasn't like ripped. I knew I looked better than I did. I knew I made improvements. So I definitely felt good about that. But by no means was I taking my shirt off to be like, hey, look how jacked I am. It was more like, hey, it's really fucking hot here in Sacramento, for one. 2, I'm going to work on my tan. And 3, I'm going to basically expose myself to people, and they can see that I ain't perfect and I got a long way to go. And for me, it put a lot of pressure on me in a positive way. Sometimes those things could be a little negative with body image issues, but for me, it worked out to be very positive. I was like, and I'd actually think about those things. I'm like, shit, you know, tomorrow I'm going to be doing some of that training outside. I'll be in the sun, and I'll probably drench through my freaking shirt, and I'll probably want to take my shirt off, and I should probably not eat those cupcakes or not eat brownies or ice cream or whatever it is. It would be motivation for me. And I had similar motivation years ago. I did professional wrestling. And when I did pro wrestling, you were out in front of the crowd and you weren't wearing a whole lot. And you wrestled like almost every night. And so you couldn't afford to have a couple beers. You couldn't afford to eat a bunch of junk, because anytime you did, it would show up right on your waistline.
So this has been great, by the way, but so what's next for you? I mean, you've got the product, you've got the gym, you've got the family. I mean, you're making money. But just from talking to you right now, you don't call yourself an entrepreneur. You call yourself an inventor, a creator.
Yeah.
I consider you an entrepreneur, which is a big compliment. But you know, what's next for you? Because I know you're not done yet. There's no way. You're way too driven day in and day out from what I'm seeing on social media, and I know there's other things.
You know, I'm excited to. I'm really excited by change, and so. You know, I met with Cameron Haynes recently. He's real popular on Instagram. A friend of Joe Rogan's been on the Joe Rogan show a bunch, so some of you might know him from there. He's a bow hunter, and he's somebody that's been on like Under Armour commercials and all this stuff. And so I started kind of getting wind of who this guy was, and I started seeing him running. You know, every day on his Instagram, he's running, and he's like, one day, this one video made me to say, you know what, fuck it, I'm dropping everything I'm doing, and I'm going to visit this guy. And he was just running, and he's like, I went to run like a mile at lunch, and I decided to run 20 miles. He's just got this huge smile on his face. I'm like, what the fuck is this guy doing? What's he talking about? He went for a trail run for fun? Is this guy a psychopath? You know? And for me, it's so different. You know, being a powerlifter, being a power athlete, I've never in my life said, hey, I'm going to go for a run. So for me, I get excited about change and trying some different things, trying some things that are against the grain, trying things that are outside of your comfort zone. When we had the 10-year anniversary of Super Training Gym, you guys can look it up. I made a rap music video called Meathead, Millionaire, which I'm quite proud of, by the way. And it's you can buy it on iTunes and Spotify and everything else. But I like stuff like that. Now, I'm not like if you saw me at a party or something, I mean, I'd probably blend in with a lot of people. I'm not like loud. I don't, you know, I'm almost a little bit shy in some respect. I get this other side of me that recognizes like, hey, you know, things are not going to work out for you if you're going to be shy and not say anything. But, I have this side of me that likes to try things different and likes to have a change. And so for now, the change is to, I'd like to weigh about 220, 225, somewhere in that range.
What are you at now?
About 235. About 235 right now. I feel really good. But I imagine that most of the running and stuff is going to take a little weight off me. And I'd like to get into running some more. But
how old are you now, Mark?
I'm 41.
41, okay.
Yeah, in terms of
same age.
What's that? Same age?
Exact same age. Yeah.
Oh, awesome. In terms of like goals, like I'm not, I don't really, some people they like to really write down these kind of long-term goals and stuff. I don't really do a lot of stuff like that. I don't, that's never really been something that's worked for me. I mean, my goals are almost more like a checklist. And that's what I try to share with a lot of people is like, let's just not make things so hard. Not make things so complicated. If you want to get better at something, then just start practicing and start doing it. So like, if, for example, with the running, I'm not like, I'm going to run 5 miles today. I'm not tracking anything. I don't wear any fitness tracking device or anything. I just run. And the longest I've seen myself run so far is about 20 minutes. And hopefully, that can improve. But I don't like to, again, my goals they're smaller. They're more like checklists, like go wash your car. Because to me, that's the low-hanging fruit. That's stuff that I can actually get to and then I'll actually do, and I'll actually feel better for it. So I try to keep it simple.
Yeah, as far as your training too, like having like 1,000-pound squat, what does it take for you to feel like you've done something now that you're in your 40s? Like, can you go do like a 300-pound squat and go, hey, that's pretty good? Or are there limits you
No, he's squatting way more than 300 pounds.
I'm just saying that. I just gave him your numbers.
Don't be fooled by him. Not to jump in, Mark. I saw you the other day. He grabbed 150s on the dumbbell press, and he's like, "Oh, this feels so, I feel so heavy." And he's sitting there banging out sets of 10, and I'm like, "Dude, you're."
Well, I'm just saying that. I'm just saying that because like I'm turning 49, and I've had to like develop ceilings for myself. Like I taught my kid. I used to do long jump and track and all that. So I teach my kid how to do long jump. I do a jump. I'm like, I should not be doing this. Right? There's certain things you can't do anymore.
What I recognize is like there's some people that are competitive, and some of it's healthy and some of it's not. I think some people have some people they like to just flat out throw down. They love to just go nuts when they train, and they love to go full blast every single time, and maybe genetically they're put together pretty well so they can do that at older ages and stuff. But I kind of, what I recognize that as, and what I've seen by being around the fitness industry and by dealing with so many people, this is not to like try to make myself above anybody else, but I feel that a lot of people have a lot of holes, and these holes, I think, create them feeling inadequate with the workouts that they're doing. Like, I don't give a fuck about my squat. I want to improve it from where it's at now, but that's the same goal I had when I squatted 1,080. Like, I always want to improve it and just make it better from where it was. Obviously, you're going to get jealous of other people, and you see other people do certain things. You'll be envious of them. But I just kind of view that. I'm like, oh, that's them, and this is my lane, and I'm going to try to stay in it. What I recognize from a lot of people that I've worked out with in the fitness industry, they love kicking my ass. I kind of like getting my ass kicked in some way, but they love kicking my ass. And normally what I see from most of them is I don't feel like they have the same life as I do. I don't feel like their life is as fulfilled as mine. I feel like I have some wonderful things going on. So I don't really care about like a pull-up contest. Does that make sense? I don't know if I'm making any sense.
Mm-hmm. No, it makes perfect sense.
That's kind of how I feel. I'm just like, yeah.
I get it. I was out at Ben Pekulski's 2 weeks ago, and I went out there with one of my digital partners, and we were. I was going out there. He said, "Come out, we'll shoot video, and we'll train." And anytime going out there, I think in the back of your head, you immediately start thinking, "All right, this guy's going to just try and run me through the gamut." And listen, I'm fine with it. I love training hard. I'm more into training smart, and there's specific days. Like yesterday was a max effort day and a cyclic repeat day. And tomorrow, today was more assault bike, tomorrow's more practice, gymnastics work, 5.5, RPE on a scale of 10. So when I go, like, my training, when it's time to hit it, I hit it. And when it's time to practice, I practice. So going out there, you immediately think, this guy's going to just try and kill me. And it was refreshing because he's like, all right, well, what are some of the things you want to work on? I'm like, well, what I was supposed to do today was this, this, and this, but I'm here to absorb any information from you. I'm in your house right now. And it wasn't about him kicking the shit out of me. It was just about him trying to figure out a way to make everything I needed to do that day more efficient. And he gave me some good viewpoints on specific things with time under tension and angles to hit and how and why he didn't believe the incline press was a great press for me. Whether you agree with that or not, it was interesting to hear his perspective. And I respected him as a coach because he also admitted that I'm very big in the kettlebell. I'm very big in the hard style kettlebell training. And he was like, well, I'd love to come out and do some kettlebell work with you. And I'm like, wow, that's really refreshing. And, I'd love to work with you and see if maybe there's one or two things I could show you. But that to me is a good coach, not someone who's always like, all right, I want to make Mark Bell puke. And just because it's going to be fun. We've been in those environments and it feels great and I get it, but there's specific little things that I look at from a coach to see, all right, is this guy a good coach or is this just someone who wants to go in there and beat the crap out of you?
A lot of times too, the things that the things that you haven't been working on, a lot of times those things will be lacking. So if I just do 3 sets of 10 with short rest, then I just can't use that much weight, but the workout still feels really good. So I need to for me, it's a matter of, to answer the question more specifically of like, how do you still have a good workout? It's just having a good challenge laid out in front of me. And that can look a million different ways. I could say, hey, I want to bench press 225 for 100 reps today. However, that breaks up, 10 sets of 10 with short rest. That'll still annihilate me just because when's the last time I've tried anything like that? I don't even know if I've ever done anything like that. So you can just change. And again, that's what I love about it so much. You can just change or tweak. How good am I going to be at kettlebells? You show me a bunch of kettlebell stuff. I haven't really done it before. I'm going to get smoked, but I'm going to get a great workout. Your level of intensity can still be through the roof. I would say, probably the biggest mistake that I see a lot of people make in their fitness journey is they simply just don't have an intent. And I think every day that you have, well, even outside the gym, but every day that you have should have an intent. When you're in the gym, what is that intent? What does that look like? Also, you kind of need a backup plan because, I don't know, you go to the gym and somebody gives you horrible news, some business thing fell through or somebody passed away or something crazy happened and you still got to lift, but now you're down. Well, now you got to audible and do something different. But that's where you can use your knowledge and say, well, I'm going to do as many reps as I can at kettlebell swings, see how many reps I can do in 3 minutes. Have you ever done that before? Probably no. And so what's the, that's the only way you can get a PR every single time you walk into the gym is if you try something different. So you got something new, you get to win what I call the invisible balloon. And you win that invisible balloon by getting PRs and by challenging yourself.
I love it. So Mark, to our viewers, if they want to follow you, what's the best way that they can see what you're doing? Because it's really inspiring stuff. I love it.
Well, you can check out my website, markbellslingshot.com. I'm going to England tomorrow. I'll be at Body Power, going out for some family vacation stuff. So that should be really cool. But I'll also be at Body Power. I've been getting requests to go out there forever. And this is my first time going out. So I'm excited about that. And then Mark Smelly Bell on Instagram and Twitter.
My next question, where'd the Smelly Bell come from?
That's two mean older brothers. I always hated to take showers, so that's you have older brothers.
No, I got 2 older sisters. I got a younger brother. So
yeah, just getting ridiculed and getting made fun of. You're from New York?
Yeah.
Where are you from?
From Long Island. Moved to the city after college. Lived there for 13 years. Opened my club, ironically, 13 years ago, and
awesome.
Then moved out of the city right around Sandy, got married, had 2 kids, and we're living back in Long Island in my hometown, which is kind of cool for me. So
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm from Poughkeepsie originally, Poughkeepsie, New York.
All right. Marist, right?
Yep. Yeah, Marist College is right there. I definitely want to come check out your gym sometime.
I'd love to have you out, man. Anytime you're in New York, we'll get some training in, we'll get some video in, and I can show you the city. I know you've been here a bunch, but we can kind of check it out a little bit. But I want to get out to you, man. I really, you gave me that generous offer to come out there, and I'd love to grab my guy Tiago, come out, shoot some video, and have some fun.
Yeah, you would definitely love the gym. Your gym's in New York City?
Yeah, it's in an area called Soho, which is Broadway and Broome.
Yeah.
So I had that for
kind of like Manhattan area, right?
Yeah, it's right, kind of the shopping mecca. So if you bring your wife in, hide your wallet, bro.
That's cool. And you got I saw the picture that you posted of Ryan Reynolds looking all jacked.
Yeah, I've been working with him for almost 10 years now. So,
wow.
We started working together a long time ago, and I think the superhero thing was just something that kind of fell on my lap after Hugh Jackman, and kind of just snowballed from there. So,
Hugh Jackman's all strong. He's got a pretty good deadlift.
Yeah.
I remember seeing him hitting up some deadlifts.
Yeah, he hasn't. I haven't trained him in a long time, but yeah, I think he got up to like mid-4s on the deadlift. When I started working with him, I don't even remember him training legs. I mean, I basically was like, dude, we got to start squatting. I'm not saying we got to get a bar on your back, but we got to start squatting. So we got him to start squatting and deadlifting, and he put on close to 30 pounds in like a year.
Have some sort of celebrity charity lifting event.
Yeah.
See what some of these guys can throw around.
Yeah.
I know Kevin Hart's big into it now.
Yeah, Kevin Hart. I mean, he's really trying to build a fitness brand right now, which is pretty wild. But
yeah,
between him and The Rock and all these guys, it's, fitness is such a big part of our society now, which is fantastic. I just hope that people exemplify, a good example. And Derek, you're gonna have to hop on a puddle jumper if we're over in Sacramento, bro.
Yeah.
Come down.
Well, I'll head back to New York. We can all go there, and Mark can convert your gym into a free gym.
Show me how to do that.
I'll teach you the free gym model.
That'll be a great lesson right there. But guys, listen, thank you. Mark, thank you for your time, man. Keep kicking ass, brother. It really is a pleasure. Heard a lot of great
Mark.
Thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate
Good job.
it. Catch you later.
Take care.